I'm Patrick.
Andrea.
John.
Matt.
Mark, and we're the Brother Kite.
Hi there, I'm Mike Forts, and welcome back to Parlour to Parlour. This week we're making a stop in rural New England, Mason, New Hampshire to be exact, where the Rhode Island band The Brother Kite retreats when working on new music in their very own self-constructed studio. The band, lead singer Patrick Boutwell, guitarist John Downs and Mark Howard, bassist Andrea Downs, and drummer Matt Rozzero invited me into their studio where we talked about, among other things, how having their own studio tends to lengthen an album's gestation period.
When you record yourself, you have the tendency to take a really long time, I think, compared to if you were to go somewhere and do it, and you're not paying anything, and the experimentation can go on. And if you're unhappy with something, you can try again, and then 2 weeks later, when you're unhappy with that, you can try again. You can try again. So self-recording probably goes on longer than it should, but that's how we roll.
Yeah, there was a guitar track on The Finest Kind off of the last record where we spent an entire 12-hour day working on one guitar track, and we scrapped it at the end of the day because we were
That's pretty much the story of this band.
And that's stuff that you could never do if you were at another studio paying for time, you know what I mean?
And we gave ourselves like a year from start to finish for this album, and we really did it in that year. We were pretty good.
Yeah, we didn't really go over.
Another delay that popped up was an offer to mix the new album by producer-engineer Tom Monahan, and working that into the schedule. Tom has worked with Vetiver, the Silver Jews, and some others that John mentions here as he tells how Tom came to mix the new record.
On the last record, I guess he heard it through a friend and wrote me an email and said, "Hey, I dig your record," and and at the time I didn't really know his credentials or anything. I just responded like any other time anybody writes to say, they like our band, but I kind of looked into him, and it turns out, he's really done a lot of great records that a lot of us like, and I didn't even know he had worked on Jay Mascis stuff, and we were listening to, right at the time I got the email, he did the Broken West record. I thought that record sounded really good, and we had been using it to reference our stuff against, and it turns out he did it, so he wrote, and we'd been talking back and forth for about the year that it took to make this record, and then when everything was all done, I sent him rough mixes, and he said, "You should come out and do this here because I think it could be really, really good." I mean, it's good now, but if I could help it get to the next level. So that's what we're gonna do.
TBK's songs tend to be introspective and occasionally down, and coming from the newlywed Pat, which by the way, congratulations, and John, who is married to Andrea, it got me to wondering, how are these songs coming out of such happy, well-adjusted people? Where are they coming from? This also led to a humorous discussion on battles over song titles.
It's kind of tough to pin down. I think when I start working on something, it has a tendency to be a little bit more real than I kind of want it to be, and usually it can get scaled back and kind of dressed up with with different elements, and kind of take it out of my actual reality and put it into a different one.
Are you implying that married people can't write music?
No, I'm not. I'm not.
No, not you. Don't let it fool you. We're actually really miserable and distraught, emotional wrecks. Well, even really well-adjusted people,
They weren't always well-adjusted.
Or
I'm sure they have great memories.
They have moments of being maladjusted.
All right, here we go.
There's a song on the new album that originally at your demo stage and lyrical stage you always called it Clearly.
Oh, that one.
And I thought that was just a crummy song title, and I said to Pat, Pat and I have gotten to the point where we're just...
Oh, has that one changed?
No. We're honest with each other, and I just said outright, I think that's a crummy title for a song. So we went back and forth a little bit, and when the album comes out, it will be called Clearly. I lost that battle. But
I like that
the thing about song titles it's not a make or break thing. I mean, it's sort of trivial, song titles, you know what I mean? So they're almost fun arguments to have because you can shrug them off and it doesn't really matter. But we've had a few more too, like the fax machine thing.
Yeah.
Recently.
Well, we're not really going to call it Fax Machine.
No, it's Fax Machine.
Exactly.
Fax Machine Part 2. That's the song.
There is a song that has a Part 1 and 2, and Matt.
How did you
called it Fax Machine?
We were having at dinner, right?
No, the bass line was just stuck in my head on a day that at work I had to keep going to the fax machine over and over, so I would walk to the...
As all song titles.
Yeah.
In my head, it was always we'd come up with a real title.
Yeah, but a couple weeks ago, John and I came up to do some last minute fixes of stuff, and halfway up, I mentioned that I think maybe like maybe Fax Machine might be it, and it was like I thought it was going to drive off the road.
Yeah, I say song title battles are trivial, but that one, I guess.
Okay, now it's time to hear the story behind the band's studio.
My dad repairs cars. He buys wrecked cars and fixes them and sells them as a kind of a hobby. And he wanted to build a big repair shop for it because this hobby had kind of turned into more of a hobby for him. So he needed a big space. So he proposed that he build this automotive shop on the first floor and perhaps turn the second floor into a studio. And he said, I'll get most of the materials and stuff if you guys do the work, because I mean he knows what he's doing and he would be there to help us. But
I should interrupt. The reason that he suggested that is because our first album was recorded in the house in John's old bedroom.
Yeah.
And then I think we were just getting songs together and we were going to do another one, and I think the discussions were like, yeah, we don't mind you guys coming up to the house, but it can't be in the house because it's just too loud, and like the drums are like right above like the kitchen light and it's like shaking and everything.
And you know how parents hate loud music. Well, the solution was pretty great. Let's take a peek inside.
Okay, why don't we start downstairs?
Start downstairs, all right.
So this is the auto shop part of our studio where cars are repaired. We record down here sometimes because it's really reflective with a concrete floor. This is Annie. So sometimes we bring drums down here. If you hear our records and you hear big bombastic drums, there's a chance they were recorded down here. So we have this big hatch door here that it's anchored by a car axle that gently lays it down. I was proud of that thing. You walk into the lounge here, we call it a lounge, but it's got a regular Nintendo and an N64. 2 couches and a refrigerator, which you don't want to go in. Here's the control room, which is a little bit of a pain because it has a slanted ceiling, that being that it's on the second floor, and the control room is supposed to be perfectly symmetrical, but it didn't work out. So we did the best we could. We don't have a big fancy board. We just record in software with a keyboard, and we don't have racks and racks of gear because we used to have more, but we just don't need it. Pretty basic stuff. Back through the lounge, and this is the big room. It's not that big. We made it as big as we could, and we were able to construct this big kinking wall in the middle to try to avoid parallel space between these two walls. And because of the ceiling, you also don't get parallel space between these two, so that works out pretty good. This is generally where stuff is performed and recorded. Patch bay there. There's a whiteboard that people write dumb shit on all the time.
There's the lyrics to Animal by Nickelback.
Animal lyrics, yeah, just for inspiration.
Anytime that I feel like I'm not really performing up to people's standards, I take a look at that and then instantly feel better. Yeah. These are photos from when we first started doing a lot of the drum miking, and we wanted to get it as tight as possible because we've had some discrepancies in the past, but we've tried to take as much care into like documenting and writing stuff down or miking lots of stuff this time around.
So I guess that's the tour of the studio. It's not world class, but it allows us to make our records, which come out pretty good.
I'll definitely concur with that assessment. Look for the third Brother Kite album to appear soon, but in the meantime, you can check out a sneak peek of a new song from the album, Searching for the Light, in the performance footage, as well as a couple of downloads from the second album, Waiting for the Time to Be Right. Thanks for hanging with us, and I'll see you next week when we return to LA to drop in on the first of 2 bands led by the same couple. Enjoy!